Hi friends, my name is Pascal Finette. I'm the co-founder of Be Radical and Singularity's University's Chair for Entrepreneurship and Open Innovation. And today, we are all together going on a trip into the future. And here's the interesting thing about the future. The future is a paradox because on one hand, we don't know what the future will be. You don't know what tomorrow will look like. The future truly is invisible. And on the other hand, when we're thinking about, particularly about technology, there's a very strong argument to be made that the future has already happened. We're just trying to catch up. You wanted to know what the iPhone looks like, which was released in 2007. You could have seen devices which were iPhone-like, just really expensive, and probably not quite there yet, 10 years earlier. Now, here's everything you need to know about the world as it pertains to technology. And you can summarize this in a single slide. And of course, it's the exponential curve. I'm pretty sure by now you know that technology has a tendency to move on these curves in its capabilities and capacities. Computers are a good example. They have been becoming twice as fast over the last 50 years, every single year. Now, here's the important thing about this. If you're standing somewhere where this gentleman stands, and I would argue in many technologies, artificial intelligence, genetics, the energy shift towards renewable energy, we're standing somewhere here. And you look to the past, and the past is the only point of reference we tend to have. The past has a tendency to look flat and linear. If you have the ability to see the future, and of course, my friends, that is what I want to teach you here. If you have the ability to see the future looks steep and crazy. Ernest Hemingway wrote a book called The Sun Also Rises. In this book, he has a quote which we now like to call the Hemingway Law of Motion because it describes us in this position so beautifully. And the quote is this: gradually and then suddenly, because that's exactly how these changes happen to us. Now, that being said, I do believe it is incredibly important for you to understand and to be able to read these early signals, the early part of those exponential curves in any technology, any trend, any change you're looking at. And we like to call this weak signals. Amy Webb wrote a beautiful book about this, and I just want to sharpen your senses towards the world in which we're living. So let's talk about weak signals, and let's talk about something funny. Let's talk about computers, because computers are the mother of all exponential trends. This here is the Apollo 11 guidance computer. So this is the computer which brought us all the way to the moon. Its purpose was to fly us most of the way to the moon, land the craft on the moon, take off from the moon, and fly back to Earth. It had a clock speed of 1 megahertz. 1 megahertz. It had 4 kilobytes of RAM and about 72 kilobytes of ROM, which was the part where the actual program resided. Now compare this with this baby here. This is a Usbc Charger. You get this for free with your latest laptop or your phone or your tablet. Its purpose is to charge a phone. Like truly, there's no other purpose in this device. It has a clock speed because there's a little chip in there which manages the charging process. It has a clock speed of 48 megahertz, has 8 kilobytes of RAM and 128 kilobytes of ROM. It is 48 times as fast as the computer which got us on the moon. Has 2 times more memory and 70% more code to charge your phone than land on the moon. So with that being said, I hope the one thing you take out of this session here is that this has never happened. Clearly, we haven't been to the moon. Well, joking aside, of course, we see these exponentially accelerating trends, these weak signals everywhere. So here's my appeal to you as you're going through the world, as you're thinking about maybe even starting a business or coming up with a new idea. Look around you and see those weak signals, identify them, spot them. Think about what could they mean for the future. What does the world look like where a USB-C charger is more powerful than the computer which brought us to the moon? And what could you build out of there? And of course, you see it everywhere. You know, anything from artificial intelligence, augmented and virtual reality, the energy shift, electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, genetics, all these topics are exploding on the scene. Let me show you one more example here. around this idea of gradually and then suddenly, just to sharpen your senses one more time. This here is a friend of ours, Michaela Sousa. Michaela is an Instagram influencer, so you know what that means. Travels the world, takes pictures of herself, has sponsorship deals with a couple of brands, cute boyfriend, hangs out with some really important people. You'll find her on Instagram, and I recommend following her. She's pretty funny. As Lil Michaela, she's got 2.9 million followers at last count. But here's the thing. Michaela is not real. She isn't a person. Michaela is a computer rendering. And now you can ask yourself, what is Michaela a weak signal for? What is she pointing towards as the world is changing? And I would argue that if you're a supermodel or an aspiring supermodel, probably not the right career choice. If you happen to run a supermodel agency, you want to probably hire some computer hackers and nerds and computer graphics people instead of photographers. If you're a makeup artist, you might want to think about doing makeup artist on digital models. But Michaela is also the future of entertainment at large. This guy here is Roy Orbison. He died a while ago. But you can see Roy Orbison today live in concert in front of thousands of people with a live orchestra, because this version of Roy Orbison is a three-dimensional hologram. So your next superstar artist might not even be real, but he might exist even in the physical world. And if you want to experience with this, just look at this.
You create the narrative. I am metahuman.
My friends, the future is unwritten. It is on you to create the future. You wake up every morning, every day is another day where you create the future you want to build. And when you build that future, do yourself a favor, build what matters. Don't waste your time doing things which don't matter. Build the things that matter. And if you want to be in touch, send me an email. I would love to be in touch with you. If you send an email to this email address, we have our own version of Michaela Sousa, and she will send you back an email with my contact details, my LinkedIn, if you are into that stuff. And we'll also share all our research on a mailing list we'll gladly add you to. That being said, go out there, create the future you want to see in the world. It has been an honor and a pleasure to be with you today. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Go change the world.